All right, without further ado, I'm going to introduce him again without all the Rocky music this time. We have the president and CEO of Proactive Training Solutions and the president and CEO of Phone Ninjas, Mr. Alan Ram and Mr. Jerry Thibeau. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. You're Skyped in. We can see you. And how you guys doing today?
This is Alan. I'm doing just great. Thanks.
Awesome.
And this is Jerry, and I'm doing well myself.
Awesome, guys. I apologize about the technical difficulties. I think we needed someone monitoring our phones there. Ironically, we have two phone guys on and two guys that deal with phones, and we couldn't get our phones right. So sorry about that. I'm going to jump right into this so so that we can give you guys as much time as possible. And Alan, I'm going to start with you because I think you started this whole thing with the interview you did. Obviously, is where this thing was originated. You did an interview on CBT News, and tell us in that interview, which I'm sure our listeners have watched. Tell us what happened. What went on in the interview? What was it about? Tell us the setting and kind of let you go from there.
Well, I was being interviewed, and really what I was talking about was managers doing their jobs. And if I'm a manager, if I'm in fact a manager at a dealership, and I came to work to sell cars today, what I was talking about is what activity do I have that I could be engaged in that would be more productive than listening to people that just called my dealership today that want to buy cars and quickly resolving missed opportunities to do business. I don't need to see a score sheet or report card, any kind of grading 2, 3, 4 days later. I need to know now that we missed a car deal, and that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, and Jerry, maybe you can respond to Alan and kind of give us your take on the interview.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts that make a dealership successful. And, managers are very busy individuals. And, it's fairly easy for consultants like Alan and myself to look into a dealership and say, hey, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. But we're not there in the grind every day. And these guys have a lot going on. And to be able to sit there and listen to calls all day long is a tedious task that they shouldn't have to be responsible for. When you think about it, there's more than just the sales mechanism to this. There's also the service and parts. And the typical dealership could get 200 to 300 calls per day, and it's very tough to listen to all those calls throughout the day and to find the sales calls. And when you use an outside service, a company like Chip King's Call Review, they actually alert the dealership within 20 minutes if something goes wrong. They'll send a text message to the key people, and that person can pick up the phone and call that customer. And there are other alternatives if a dealership doesn't want to employ a third-party service like that.
Well, and Jerry, you said in your article, and by the way, you wrote an article, obviously, that again kind of carried this on, and the reason we're here today, that said, on Dealer Refresh that Alan, my BS meter's going radioactive, but you quoted here, Alan stated, and you quoted, managers should be listening to their dealership's calls, and you said, Alan, when's the last time you did this? Do you realize how many calls a typical dealership receives in any given day? And you proceeded to say, why would I want a guy making six figures listening to calls that can be reviewed by a person making minimum wage? Alan, what do you have to say about that?
I don't even. Is the debate over yet? Really, minimum wage. That's exactly what it said. Why would I want a guy making six figures listening to calls that can be reviewed by a person making minimum wage? First off, as my good friend Dave Anderson says, first things first, second things never. What activity, if I'm a manager, is more productive than listening to customers that just called my dealership? And as far as they're just so busy, we need to prioritize. There's nothing I could be doing that is more productive. And Jerry, if I'm wrong, please tell me. But when I talk to these dealers, and I put it on my Facebook page the other day, and I put it on LinkedIn, and I know I'm Facebook friends with some of your people, so they could easily check. I said, how many sales calls do you get a day? And most of the time they get 6, 10, 15, maybe, some of the higher ones, 20, 25. And as far as having to listen to service and parts calls, that's a call monitoring issue. If a customer's calling in on a specific Auto Trader line or Cars.com line, that goes into a bucket of calls. So I'm not talking about having managers listen to their parts calls. I'm talking about having them listen to their sales calls. And a tedious task, how is that a tedious task? That's my job. I am a sales manager. So I want to hear right now that customer that's calling up on a 2011 Highlander, I want to hear that when they're not told the right stuff. Why would I want someone making minimum wage? And by the way, Jerry, I don't even know what is minimum wage. I don't have anybody working for minimum wage. How much is it?
Hey, I don't know either because none of my people make minimum wage. I'm talking about people. These services are using people in third world countries that are able to listen to the call, summarize it. They listen to the whole call. But Alan, let me say this. When is the last time you actually sat down in a call tracking system and started going through the calls? Because I will tell you, when a customer calls, they go on the website, they look at what other number, they might call the service number for sales. And so these calls get spread out all throughout the system. And I have about 10 people working for me that do nothing but listen to calls, that feed them to my coaches, and we coach those calls. And I will tell you, it takes them a long time to find the sales call. And no manager has the bandwidth to sit at his desk all day long and be paying attention to that.
Dude, okay. I can't believe I put on pants for this today. Okay? Now we're talking about having people from third
Alan,
world.
for all we know, you don't have any pants on.
We have people from third world countries right now. Why would I want somebody making minimum wage making the determination if a call was maximized or not? Let me ask you a question, Jerry. What is the goal of a sales call?
It's to schedule an appointment.
No, it's not. Okay, let me ask you this, Jerry. How many times do we get a customer's name, we get their number, we set up an appointment with them, and the appointment doesn't show up? That happens, correct?
It happens, potentially, yes.
Okay,
some dealerships, it happens more than others.
My fantasy world, but it happens. Okay, how many times do we have a customer we talk to, we get their name, maybe we don't get their number. We don't set up an appointment with them, but that customer comes in and buys anyway. The goal of a sales call is not to set up an appointment. I'm not saying we don't want to set up appointments, but the goal of a sales call is to get that customer into the dealership. That is the goal of a sales call. None of us gets paid for setting up appointments, or should get paid for setting up appointments. So no one is going to be able to determine, no minimum wage or person in a third world country, to quote you, is going to be able to determine if that call was maximized. If nobody's going to be able to listen to that call and say, okay, you know what? We could have done more here. That guy, he set up an appointment, but he doesn't really sound like he's coming in. Because a lot of times customers agree or disagree. We'll set up an appointment with a salesperson just to get off the phone. It's the easiest way off the phone. So the salesperson writes down they have an appointment. Your third world scoring system puts down, they set up an appointment with a customer. But as a manager listening to it, I could tell, you know what, I need to call and solidify that. And come on, man, you know as well as I do, dealers get 10, 15, maybe they get 20 calls in a day, and coincidentally, the more calls they get, the more managers they've got on staff. So I'm not asking them to listen to parts calls or service calls, but here, press 1 for sales, 2 for service. Problem solved.
Alan, I strongly suggest you get to log into call tracking at one of your dealerships and go look for sales calls. It's not as easy as you think, and I know this because I do it my employees do it every day. I've done it, and it's not as easy as you think.
I know.
There's a better alternative to this. If a manager really wants to hold their people accountable, why not, when the phone rings and we know it's a sales call, the operator goes, any available sales rep, please take this sales call on line 1. The salesperson then has to walk into the manager's office where the sales phone is, and they take that call live in front of a sales manager. That would probably be a better alternative to what you're saying. But for a sales manager to go look through call tracking, they don't have the bandwidth. And I guarantee you, if there was a way we could poll managers right now, 90% of them are going to agree with me.
Okay, the only ones that are going to agree with you are the ones that say that they won't do it or they can't do it. That's who your argument is pandering to, and the dealers that buy that bullshit. Because and you ask, when was the last time I was at a dealership? Like, I've never left my office. I was at a dealership, and I got their okay to use their name. ABC Nissan in Phoenix, Arizona. Look them up. One of the top 25 Nissan dealerships in the country, and one of the top 5 profitable Nissan dealerships in the country. And I know you'll probably have some to dispute this, but you can call the guy and ask him. And what Travis Holt, the GM of that dealership, did when he first got to that dealership, every hour he would page his sales managers into his office, and they would listen to sales calls. So if they got 3 sales calls that hour, they would listen to 3 sales calls. If they got 5 sales calls, they would listen to 5 sales calls. Then he would go, hey, Bob, call that guy up right now. Why are we only talking about one Sentra? Hey, Steve, call that customer. Let's tighten that appointment up a little bit. And if you were to ask him, as I did, so you do this every hour, he said, what do I have that I could be doing? I came to work to sell cars. What do I have to be doing that's any more productive than listening to customers that just called my dealership today that want to buy cars and quickly resolving missed opportunities? The same day, and I'm not kidding you, and I will give you the phone number to this other dealership off air, you could call them. The polar opposite. I went to call on this other dealership, and I was talking to this about the owner and with the owner of the managers. And the owner asked the managers, so, hey, guys, do you listen to sales calls? Are you guys listening to every sales call? And the GM actually said, I probably haven't listened to one in a year. And the sales managers said, no, we really don't listen to them. And the owner just asked them, why not? And what the manager responded was, I don't know, we need to do a better job at that. And it's not that they said that they were too busy, they're in closing too many deals. They just never thought about it, and nobody made them do it. So I'm just going to shut up now.
Well, let me ask this
Well,
kind of.
Here's the other problem, Alan, is there are a lot of sales managers out there that don't even know how to take a sales call or how to properly handle a sales call. We know because we hear them on the phone as well. So they might not be, qualified to do that.
Hey,
Well,
Jerry.
there you go. Then that's
Hey, let me,
a training issue. That's a separate debate. I think I've had that one as well.
Hey, guys, let me jump in here real quick. To keep this going, but Jerry, you mentioned, obviously on a brighter note here, you said at the end of the article you wrote, you do agree with Alan's opinion on BDCs, and as Alan just referenced, in another debate, the BDC boardroom, his stance on BDCs, obviously it's yours. So let me ask this, Jerry, to you, and then you guys can kind of go back and forth on this. I hear what Alan's saying, it sounds like, is that somebody, a sales manager of accountability, who's I get an accountability meaning that it's their responsibility, their butts on the line, their bottom line, their pay, their pay plan may be attached to it. Something of value is attached to it, so that the accountability would be there. So, and you're saying they don't have the time for that, and obviously that's what you guys have been going back and forth on. What would you suggest then, or do you agree, Jerry, that possibly someone in another country or someone of minimum wage would not be able to correct a mistake? And so, that's kind of where the tweets that are coming in.
So here's the thing: when an outside agency is listening to the call, they're looking for, hey, did the call even get answered? And if it didn't get answered, boom, send off a text message, and that dealership's notified, hey, somebody called your dealership and nobody handled them. We're going to call them right back. And when they're listening to the call, they're looking to see what happens. Was an appointment scheduled? And if no appointment was scheduled, and they feel, and we've listened to enough calls that we know what the parameters of the call are all about. And so when we feel there's an opportunity for a customer to be called back and handled properly, an alert is sent out. And that happens throughout the course of the day. The dealership can turn that on or off whenever they want. And with a manager, there's no way a manager can be doing that all day long. And maybe they go in and do it once a day. Well, at the end of the day, if they wait till the end of the day to do it, they've already botched that opportunity. I can tell you that we have multiple dealers in the same city, and there's one customer I can remember. They called 3 different dealerships. The first 2 dealerships botched the call horribly, and the third dealership, they got a good phone agent. The person that did a really great job, built rapport with the customer, got the appointment, and that was a botched opportunity for 2 dealerships, and that happened over a half-hour time frame. So when Alan says, hey, if we don't call them back today, it's actually we don't call them back within the next 30 minutes. They're going to be on to another dealership. And these third-party companies that are reviewing calls, they do a good job. They're multi-million-dollar businesses, and they exist because they get results. Typically, if you spend $1 with a call, a company that's going to monitor your calls, you're probably going to get $10 in return from lost opportunities. And there's a lot more lost opportunities with service than sales. And a service customer is eventually going to become a sales customer if you treat them right and take care of them. The phones is a huge profit leak in our industry, and sales managers aren't the answer.
Alan?
I am just still stuck on this whole minimum wage thing. And here's the thing, okay? It's managers do have time to listen to the calls, okay? That's absolutely not. And if they don't have time to listen to the calls, they're not going to have time to listen to your coached calls. Maybe they're too busy now to even open their email. Maybe we should hire a minimum wage person in a third world country to make sure that they're opening their email. It is ridiculous. I'm the guy, what I'm talking about here, Jerry, is exercise. Okay, it's exercise and eat right as it pertains to being healthy. And you're basically saying your approach is, hey man, you don't have time to eat right or exercise. Come on, you're so busy. How much you like those Twinkies. Here, take a bunch of diet pills. Okay? It's absolute nonsense. If I'm a manager, I need to be listening to my calls. Here, coaching calls. Hey, Tommy, come on in here. Let's listen to this together. Come on, man. You know better than that. Let me pick up the phone right now and call this customer. I believe you called it the Hawthorne effect when they know somebody's watching them. I call it simple accountability. If I'm a manager, I will be the coach of my staff. And here's something. You were talking about coaching calls, and you were talking about an effective approach would be to hire a PGA teaching instructor to follow you around the course. Your instructor would offer a critique after every swing. I don't know many PGA instructors that are making minimum wage. My PGA instructors at my dealership are making six figures. Those are my managers. My managers need to be listening to the sales calls, okay? Dial 1 for sales, 2 for service, boom. They press 1, that's a pretty good chance that's a sales call. If it's coming in on call monitoring on an auto trader, cars.com line, maybe my sales line, boom, I know to listen to that. And they don't have that many calls. I'm not employed about manager of the dealership.
Let me cut in here for just a minute. I'm going to ask Jerry a quick question. Jerry, let's just say that the managers were able to make time to monitor these calls and respond, as Alan's saying, maybe getting in touch with a customer. I would like to ask you this. When it comes to the call monitoring service, do you believe that they would do a better job at recognizing opportunities or missed opportunities than a seasoned sales manager on the desk that may monitor the call and respond to it?
They're both qualified to make a call as to whether the call is botched or not.
Okay, are they equally as equipped to make that phone call back or to recognize opportunities and directions to go in order to salvage that botched call and make it productive?
I mean, yeah, there are services out there that will call the customer back to the dealership, but, would the manager be qualified to call that customer back? Absolutely, no doubt about it. But they don't have the bandwidth to listen to all those calls to find those opportunities. And, I'd like to address Alan's, mention of coaching.
Sure, go ahead.
The people that do coaching, and this is my specialty, this is what we do. When we listen to a real phone call and we take the audio file and we put the coaching in it and we show the people where they went wrong, and, like a lot of people will say, hey, do you think you might be able to come in today or tomorrow? Well, we don't like that word think, so we would say, when are you more available to come in today or tomorrow? So you ask in a more of a assumptive manner. And we give them that feedback in that audio file, and I have data to show you that when we take on somebody who's never been coached before, they score often on a scale of 1 to 5, well below a 2, sometimes even below a 1. And over a series of coaching sessions, we can take that person and teach them what they should be saying, and they're scoring 5s. And when people score 5s on our program, they're appointing customers 80% of the time, and we have the data to prove that. There's very few dealerships out there in the country that can say they appoint customers at 80% clip rates. And I have a slew of customers that do that. So I know coaching works. You know, these trainers that are providing videos, hey, go watch my videos. Yeah, maybe the salesperson might watch that video once, but they don't go watch it a second time, and they never retain that information that they watched. So it's constant coaching, reinforcement that gets these people better.
Okay, can I address that?
Yeah, you know, and here, yeah, Alan, here's the thing. I mean, I wish we had more time. We have a couple of minutes, so I'm going to give you guys each a minute or so. So, Alan, take a minute, and then Jerry, take a minute, and we'll do part 2 on this. But it's just we have one more segment too, and but go ahead, take a minute, Alan, and then Jerry.
Okay, so Jerry, that was funny. You know, they make them watch videos. Okay, Jerry, okay. My training is housed on a multi-million-dollar platform that trains, tracks, and monitors 24/7 what somebody's doing. Okay, and oh yeah, by the way, I've got a simulation exercise on there so they can practice taking a sales call virtually versus on a real customer. So don't think he invented anything new with we send people in live. Okay. So for the 2 days out of the month that they're live, what about the other 28 days? So I think I'm just going to quote you here at the end of your article. So one should do a little more research and better understand, this is your words, how technology can in fact help dealerships gain an advantage over their competitors. That's my multi-million-dollar platform. So you didn't invent anything new with live training. We've got that too, by the way.
Jerry?
We have 2 different platforms, Alan. I'm familiar with your service.
That it?
In closing, would you guys take Jerry? Why don't you take 30 seconds and close, then we'll give Alan 30.
All right. So the whole premise behind this whole, debate is about whether sales managers should be listening to their calls. And I tell you, they don't have the time to do it. And if Alan thinks any different, then I'd like to see him sit in the dealership and play the role of a manager and find the time to actually listen to the calls. Because I guarantee the last time Alan was in call tracking service and looking at those calls, it hasn't happened. Otherwise, he'd know exactly what I'm talking about.
Alan.
I'm not even going to address that. Anyway, this argument, his argument that they can't do it or they won't do it, just panders to the weak managers that don't want to do their job. They don't have time to do my job. And the dealers that tolerate that bullshit, okay? If I'm a sales manager, I should be managing sales. Those customers are calling in on the telephone right now. There's nothing better than I could be doing than listening to those calls, quickly resolving missed opportunities, and coaching my salespeople. I don't need you to do it. I will coach my own salespeople. This is, then that's it. That's all I've got. What do they say? Those that are successful do what those that are not successful won't do.
Hey guys, let me ask you, Jerry, Alan, in seriously, because I think that this could yield some more time, and I really do. And what I would like to do, and I'd like to ask you guys, and I mean maybe you're not interested, give it a month or so. Take the next couple 3 weeks, and I know we'll get some feedback on this. Will you guys maybe take the feedback we get, the questions that are pouring in through Twitter, give us time to feed through them, or email both of you guys everything we can get. Will you guys come back on maybe in 30 days or so? Let's address this again, maybe bring some of these questions to the table that dealers are asking. Would you guys be open to that?
Sure, and I'm saying,
what's that?
I'll sit in a room with a bunch of people in a third world country monitoring sales calls, just so that I know that doesn't work for a fact.
It works, Alan. There are companies that are making millions of dollars doing it, and they're very successful. And there are some dealerships that are spending $10,000 a month doing it because they know it gets them another $50,000 a month in revenue.
Hang on. But you did say third world countries. I didn't hear that, right? That wasn't
yes, I mean, hey, if I can take somebody who is in, India, and they speak fluent English, and they understand the parameters of a phone call and what's going on, they summarize that call, and then they alert they plug it into the software, and it alerts the dealership that, hey, you just had a botched opportunity. And then somebody who's qualified can pick up the phone and call that person, and it happens within, 20 minutes of that person originally calling the dealership. That's a win-win for the dealership.
Is Ashton Kutcher about to bust in through my door?
Hey guys, listen. I literally, man. I tell you what, this is better than. I mean, seriously, I'm loving this because honestly, I can see. We hear the feedback coming through, and that's what we care about, the listeners. But will you guys come back seriously and do this? Jerry, you in?
I'm in.
All right, thanks, guys. Listen, I hate to jump off. We have to. We have. You know what? I think Harold and Kumar. No, I'm just kidding. I said I had to throw that out in the spirit of the show. So hey, listen, we appreciate you guys coming on, man. Thank you guys for real for coming on. We look forward to talking to you very soon. I'll make sure our producers get all the feedback to you guys and who did it, so you have a chance to respond.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.